All right. Well, it's just good to know who we have on board. I believe it's 7 o'clock right now. So why don't we go ahead and get started? We'll run this until 7 p.m. I know guys in the pack, I know I say that a lot, that we're going to cut things off at 1 hour, but we'll do it tonight. We'll cut this thing off at 1 hour. But try to give you every bit of 1 hour for anybody who's listening. If you are interested in staying on that long, but welcome to the Spirit of VMI Town Hall webinar here in April. We haven't had one of these in a while, and it's always good to let everybody know what's going on. We've done a bunch of other bits of communication, and hopefully everybody on this call has been receiving the emails and press releases and other bits of information and communication we've been sending out. We're going to, my name is Matt Daniel. I'm the chairman of the Spirit of VMI, and I've got a number of other members here that will be joining in the discussion. I can't see everybody who's on right now, but I know that Hugh Daughtry and Mark Carroll and George Halages, I believe Tim Cordell, are all going to be joining and pitching in. I'm going to ask those guys to fill in where I am not saying something correctly or they want to correct me. And I would like the people who are interested to see what we're saying to maybe formulate questions. Try to stay mute. Formulate questions. Put those questions in the form of notes or chats, and toward the end of this thing, we'll bring those up and try to answer as many of those questions as we can, given the time that we have left. So I want to welcome you, and thank you for coming and participating with us tonight. Hugh, can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so the agenda here is we're going to give some updates on the different things that we've been doing communications-wise and other activities. We'll have some discussion about diversity, equity, and inclusion and how it has affected or has been implemented so far at VMI, but also in other colleges and institutions, corporations, et cetera. There's some trend that's going on across the country, and it may be worth discussing, and would love to get feedback from the people on this call, whether we talk about it tonight or we get other information or other communiques. That's fine too. We'd like to talk about the upcoming election cycle and the philosophy we have, and we're building around that. No two election cycles are the same. And then we'll take some questions and we'll close. Before we go into the next thing, I just want to give some notes that I was taking today. We had a lot of activity a lot of political activity in the 2022 year. The 2023 year has been a little bit more of addressing specific issues that have popped up that was the reason why we became a PAC in the first place. And those things really boil down to the implementation of the Barnes and Thornburg recommendations and the seeming willingness that VMI and assertiveness that VMI took in actually pursuing those things and doing what we could to try to convince and or influence to get some of that stuff slowed down and stopped. Specifically, if you were to put your finger on one issue, it was the diversity, equity, and inclusion incorporation across VMI, and we've been addressing that, and have, because the year 2022 was a relatively small, actually very small election year. There were really no elections for us to have to deal with. We spent a good bit of our time, maybe most of our time, in the 2022 year, handling that after the elections, after the 21 election successes that we had, and then starting now to prepare for the 2023 elections, which will be a big year. You may have noticed that we have, and we'll talk about the communications methodologies we've been using, but we've taken a bit of a pause for the last couple of months, really, month and a half maybe, a wait and see, basically a long, hopefully patient look at where we're going, and what we have been perceiving as a scaling back of the aggressive assault from outside agencies and in some cases inside VMI itself in the incorporation of divisive concepts. And we've been met with some really promising news, and that we have put out in published in a press release probably a month and a half ago or so. I don't have the exact date. Maybe it was a month ago. That basically said that we're seeing that there are some things that would answer the mail for us to not pay so much attention to that, or at least vocally pay attention to that. And those things were that the diversity, equity, and inclusion effort at VMI would align more with that of the governors of the Virginia government. So the diversity, opportunity, and inclusion, which is, I think it's an entirely different philosophy, and we can talk more about that at some other time. But we were looking to see that, or trying to influence that VMI would go that way, and whether it was us or somebody else, whether the Board of Visitors or some other influencer, or maybe they just came to that on their own, they have done that. They have changed at least the moniker of the diversity, opportunity, and inclusion effort at VMI, and so they changed the sign and they changed the name. Is that good enough? No. For our sake anyway, it's not good enough, but it is a step in a positive direction. One of the things that we had been informed that were going to happen was that equity is going to be taken out of the language. Equity is a harmful word, and in the context that it was used, it had been taken out of the language at VMI. That really hasn't happened, and it's still up on the website, and it's still, so really the only thing of this moniker change has been that there's been a signage change that just happened, I think, last week or the week before, and we're waiting now and trying to communicate with the Board of Visitors on what is the pathway into changing the entire structure so that equity is no longer a thing, and that equal opportunity for all cadets is what we have always been, has always been what we wanted since we were all cadets, and what has happened in the past, and we want to make sure that it stays that way. So I think that first thing, mirroring the governor's DOI effort, is partway there, and we're encouraged, but I think we need some more evidence that more of it's happening, and we'll be looking forward to that. The second is the focus of training. The focus of training cadets, anyway, with the DEI stuff, with the one step forward, one step back if you're, of this race and of this gender, socioeconomic status, whatever, step forward if you're of the other, and intrinsically divide the people in the training. That has changed, and it's changed for the better. They're going now toward more vignette-based training to what cadets may see when they graduate and go into the public arena or go into the military, and they will be exposed to different things that they may have to deal with that that most of us on this call probably didn't have to deal with when we were just getting out of college. So I think that's a good thing, as long as it's not promoting the divisive concept. And we have Board of Visitors members who have been sitting in on some of those. I think that for us to be absolutely satisfied with that, it would be nice to see what the curriculum is, and then actually see if we can't sit in on some of those training sessions just to see what it's all about. And I think that that's a fair ask that alumni, regardless of your stripes, be able to sit in on some of the things, sort of audit the course, so you can maintain an awareness of what's going on at VMI. So I'm encouraged by the training, probably the most encouraged by the training change than anything else. The next couple of things are things I'm not so encouraged by, and that we're going to continue to pay attention to and try to continue to put pressure on. One is that DEI concepts are not infiltrating the academic curriculum at VMI. I don't know that they are necessarily. We did sort of ferret out a history course that seems to have been constructed and delivered in a way that I'm not sure all of us would feel comfortable with. History 206, I think, is what it was called. And so we're looking to see if there are other cases like that, and or any guarantees or affirmations is the word I was looking for, from the dean, that actively we're not seeking to include divisive concepts, equity training, and diversity, equity, inclusion into the academic agenda at VMI, regardless of the major. Reading, writing, and arithmetic and engineering is basically what we're asking to continue to educate our young men and women cadets with. So not so sure about that, and we're going to continue to pay attention to that. The fourth thing was DEI concepts not infiltrating the broader context of VMI, the other verticals other than academics, and the DEI training or DOI training, inclusive excellence training, that sort of thing. But outside of that, in the structures that are existent at VMI, from the class system, the rat line, et cetera, the pillars, as you were at VMI. And I'm not so sure, after seeing an agenda item that the DEI, then called the DEI office, had submitted to the Board of Visitors in their January meeting, they stated just the opposite as their goal, is to actually infiltrate all of the other activities at VMI to ensure that that diversity, equity, inclusion, as they saw it, should be sprinkled across the broader VMI. So we need to pay attention to that, and we'd certainly like everybody to participate and pay attention to that. And the last thing that I'm going to say here is is that VMI is not racist, never was racist. I think all of us on this call, at least I would imagine most of us on this call anyway, would agree with that. I've heard it said by administrators at VMI. I've heard it said by faculty and staff at VMI. I'd like to hear it publicly from VMI. I'd like to hear it publicly from the state of Virginia, that VMI is not a racist place. It's not a discriminatory place. If it's true, then say it. And we're going to be pursuing that. So every time we get a chance, we need to ask that question and get the affirmation and or the opinion from the people that we're talking to who represent VMI. So that's sort of my preamble. That was a little longer than I wanted it to be, but it's probably full of some information and things that we're thinking about. We're thinking about elections too, and we're going to be coming up more about that as well. And just as Charlie Shane says that the only thing that we hate are rats, but even more than rats, thirds. Right. So way to go, Charlie. So next slide, please, Hugh. Hugh, will you talk about the communications effort that we're doing?
Yeah, sure will. Thank you, Matt. And again, thank you all for joining us tonight. What we've tried to do over the last year is I will not say improve, it's probably broaden our communications. Our press releases that have been done over the past year and before that have been excellent, very hard hitting. We'll talk about that in a minute. What has really surprised, well, it shouldn't surprise me, even though we're a bunch of CEs and econs and stuff. We do have a couple of English majors, but we got some very talented writers that are on the board, and they are contributing to these publications. So what we've started this year, we call the Sentinel. It's a quarterly newsletter. The highlight of it, apparently, from what we're seeing, are the chairman's comments. For some reason, Matt is very popular with either his written comments or his multimedia presentations. But that's been very good. We have some very good op-eds and that we've been putting out. Our next edition will be just prior to New Market and graduation, and we'll have some pretty good content there as well from some of our members. You'll see a summary of press releases that have been done in that quarter to kind of bring you up to speed if you've missed them as they come by. Humor is also very important for VMI folks, a very special type of humor. Some that may not be as familiar with it might be a little thin-skinned and not get it, but we always ask folks to understand that it is satire. And so our dartboard that we incorporate, that many of y'all remember from your cadet days in the cadet, they carry it on now. But we have brought that back with a little more of an alumni focus. So I hope you enjoy that. And then, of course, we all love Zippy and the cartoons that we have there, either that are come out as they're produced by that rather mysterious fellow, and then we of course incorporate them into the Sentinel. But we hope you enjoy it. As you can see, there's links within the webpage or within the newsletter that you can respond to our info account with suggestions if you'd like. Love to hear them. But any feedback you give us, and we hope you enjoy that. Over the past year, we have also had numerous press releases, over 15, and they are a group effort amongst our team, and we put them out as needed to address what's going on. We've weathered a couple of rather furious assaults from the Washington Post, and we put out a couple on that. Around DEI on Post, you'll see those. We were trying to encourage the actions of the governor, and some questions we had around the funding that's going on around DEI there at the Institute. But the press releases have been well received. We get good feedback on those as well. Good viewership. I guess I should tell you that although we are producing this for rather a captive audience, and that most of these are mailing list or pretty much member or folks that have contributed, the read rate, the open rate of these are outstanding, and you would expect them to be high, but they're off the chart. So we appreciate the fact that folks are reading these. So we will continue. You'll probably see, you see this webinar tonight. We'll probably have more of a multimedia presence. I know that's one thing that Matt has been very big on, and you'll see that spread in more faces amongst the board, and you'll see more folks coming out on that. That's where we are. Matt, up next. We've got meetings and activities. Not sure who's going to talk to that.
I appreciate that. And I think, Mark, if you and I can talk about this. Mark, you still up there?
Yeah, I'm here, Matt. Yes.
Okay. So if you want to just go ahead.
Yeah, I can. You kind of watch my back for me. So we've done a lot of good things over the last year and a half or so with some activities, and one of the first things that we want to get going from today is another Spirit Fest in Richmond. For those that attended the Kindred Spirit in the western part of Richmond last year, it was a good time, and it was a great opportunity for people to network. We want to do that again. We're looking to plan that for late August, early September, after kids get back into school, so that families are home and aren't away on vacation. So probably be sometime in June. We'll be communicating specific dates, location, and so forth. We're going to try to bring a little more of a social environment to it to attract more people. So look forward to having people join us at the Spirit Fest in Richmond. In terms of tailgates, and I should say there'll be an opportunity for Matt and others in the PAC to be able to share information about where we are in terms of the election and what other activities are going on within the PAC. The next item is about the tailgates. We've done a decent job, I think, over the last 2 seasons with football, getting some tailgates going. We really would like to encourage people to join us there. It's not, it's an opportunity for bonding. It's, people are there. We've got food, beverages, and it's just a good opportunity for like-minded people to get together and enjoy events and company. We've done a baseball game in Fredericksburg. That was a good attendance. It was a very hot night. We'll be looking to do other things like that. And so if anybody has recommendations for those types of events, please let us know. I would certainly appreciate those types of suggestions, but also I would appreciate anybody that's willing to help in pulling these events together.
Yeah, Mark. People who live across, especially the state of Virginia, in the major population areas, they're summertime baseball games, and those are really pretty good for local candidates to be able to get their name out in their constituency. And the one we did was up in Fredericksburg, and Tara Durant was a candidate up there, and there was another lady who was running as well. Tara did win, and the other lady did not win, though we supported both of them. And they got to meet a lot of constituents they would not have met otherwise. So if people who live in Richmond, in Virginia Beach, in Norfolk, in Northern Virginia, Roanoke, those are, I'm probably forgetting a major constituency or a major population area. So somebody's going to yell at me, I'm sure. But if you have ideas, if you're not a full-blown member of the PAC or on the board, or it doesn't really matter. If you have an idea and you think that it would be good for us to, first of all, support a candidate that is in your area, that you are one of the constituents, possible constituents for, please let us know. And we'd love to, and we'll talk more about the strategy for getting politicians or candidates supported. But please let us know if you have the inside track on what's going on in your district, in your either House or Senate district across the state, and anything we can do to help one of your candidates that you think needs to be, that's friendly to VMI, that needs some help, some exposure, and maybe a little bit of cash. So sorry about that, Mark. I just kind of took that away. Sorry.
No, it's great. It's an excellent point made and necessary. So the last thing is we are considering what we're calling a whiskey rebellion. Traditional to VMI, most alumni enjoy their bourbon. So we thought we'd try to put something together there that has Scotch. I saw that.
That's right.
So yeah, we'll include some Scotch, right? And so anyway, we're looking forward to trying to pull that together. Certainly are going to need help in pulling that piece. So if anybody's interested in being a part of helping to bring that together, I personally would appreciate your help. I think that's pretty much it. Always available, and ideas, suggestions, opportunities, please let us know.
Thanks, Mark. And so if you are not aware of how to get a hold of us, the email that was sent out for the invitation should give you, Hugh, does it have the email, or it's just the email address is just info@.
Fertilizer down there in Norfolk.
Right, it should be down in the footer. You should see a link to our email address in addition to our social media pages as well on those communications.
Right. Okay.
Or and our website, which you've seen highlighted here. There's links there as well.
Okay. Okay. So we should go to the next page then, please. Tim, are you on?
I am.
Okay.
I got Dad here with me too, so I'm trying to be his technical aid. Joe Spivey, 57.
Oh, okay. Okay. Tim Cordell, are you on?
I'm here, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing good. Jake, it's great to hear from you. And Jake, we're going to be voting for you on Saturday, May 6th, when we go to the General Alumni Association meeting.
Super. Tell me something. Matt, thanks a lot. I just want to talk a little bit about DEI, just with a quick backdrop on the infestation of it nationwide. There was a recent publication by Stanford alumni that documented the massive personnel and cost of the Power 5 universities. And you might be surprised to know how really bad it is. Stanford, for example, employs 11 DEI officials for every 1,000 students. And the University of Michigan employed 163 DEI officials on its staff. So to put into perspective how egregious Stanford's number is, for example, only the 9 most infested schools in the country have more than 3 DEI officers per 1,000 students. The average per major school was 45 total DEI employees in the Power 5 schools. So if you don't think that doesn't hit close to home, UVA was 4th in the country. Virginia Tech was 11th in the country in DEI personnel per 1,000 students, with UVA second to Michigan in total DEI. So to put into context the Spirit of VMI PAC's efforts, the VMI administration requested millions of dollars from the state for its DEI budget during the last session. The number would have employed a DEI staff of 25, making the Institute by far the largest per student DEI school in the country at more than 15 DEI officers per 1,000 cadets. So it's important to note that the Spirit of VMI PAC effectively blocked an aggregate of what would have been more than $9 million in funding from different sources, and that would have gone to VMI for DEI implementation. And the girth of that request was huge. So the intensity and focus of the left's intended punishment can't be overstated, and it begs our continued diligence of the Board of Visitors and administration to ensure that DEI is completely eliminated at the Institute. Recently, a number of beachheads have been established to counter DEI across the country. One of the major defenders has been the Association of College Trustees and Alumni, or ACTA, which has supported counter efforts across the country, including the creation of the Alumni Free Speech Association, AFSA, which has had a strong start in the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic coast. But the strongest results in pushback have come from conservative state governments. In Florida, Governor DeSantis has eliminated funding for all DEI policies in state colleges and universities. That move has been held up in federal court, but it doesn't appear that would take the momentum away from the state of Florida's ability to spend its funds where it wants. He also, the Governor DeSantis also replaced the board and the president at New College with the intention of making New College in Florida the Hillsdale of the South. In Texas, with extreme DEI programs at Texas A&M, Texas Tech, and Houston, among others, University of Texas, Governor Abbott has ordered DEI policies reversed. And to that order, A&M, Tech, and Houston immediately stood down and signaled their cooperation with the governor's directive. University of North Carolina, which is well known for its progressive approach as a university as well, has banned DEI statements from admission, promotion, tenure, and hiring, and has issued a statement in support of free speech, which must be protected for all of its students. In addition to this, South Carolina, Oklahoma, and Kansas are now exploring DEI action in terms of where the money goes and how it's spent on public universities and colleges. At Stanford, after the embarrassment of heckling a Trump-appointed federal judge, the dean of DEI was suspended and mandatory free speech training was ordered for the students. And further, some federal benches have indicated that they would not hire Stanford law school grads to clerk at their court levels. So there is quite a bit of pushback in the states where there is some conservative government. AFSA, again, the Alumni Free Speech Association, is a group where VMI is represented, and it's made up of the most prestigious Northeastern and Mid-Atlantic coast institutions: Harvard, MIT, Princeton, Cornell, North Carolina, WL, and UVA, to name a few. VMI is represented by the Cadet Foundation, and AFSA is very actively engaged in the Institute's free speech and DEI issues, and you'll hear more about that soon. Active debate, thanks to AFSA, is taking place before the student bodies over objections of DEI staff or the participation by the DEI staff even. Proponents and administrations also objecting, but free speech is breaking out even in the Northeast. And the feedback indicates that, and that's probably the best news, is the feedback indicates that the silent majority of students, conservative, moderate, and even some liberal alike, want DEI eliminated or redesigned. And so, from this summary, it's evident that change is most powerful and it's unilateral when the right has control of state governments, like in Florida, Texas, and North Carolina. So it's important to note how much of Governor Youngkin's agenda has been dead on arrival at the door of the Virginia Senate to date in his term. And it's, some legislation addressing issues like parental rights, child protections, tax cuts. That situation underscores how critical the PAC's mission is for a conservative majority to the Virginia Senate and to retain the House of Delegates this November.
Tim, well done. Thank you for all that. And your last statements can't be overstated, the importance of what the PAC so we're here to do this. We're here to support candidates who will support what we need to happen at VMI. But even if we weren't here, this is the most important election, I believe, in Virginia in the last 2 decades. Because of the direction that Virginia has been going, the nation has been going, but especially the direction that VMI is going. And if we don't maintain at least the House of Delegates, then we will get steamrolled by the Senate. And so preferably that we are able to flip the Senate. There's a 4-seat, I think, Delta right now. It will be a close election. We need to support those candidates who support what we know is good at VMI and what is good about VMI. But we need to keep the House of Delegates too. And that is probably going to be an easier go than it is than the Senate. But anything that we have done, anything that we've been able to accomplish so far can be flipped in an instant if we lose the House and the Senate. and we'll need a supermajority basically for the governor to be able to hold a veto of anything that happens within the that he would not agree with within the House and the Senate. So it's very important that we support, that we identify and we support local candidates, and for all the reasons that Tim just gave. So thank you very much for that, Tim. So next slide, please. Okay, so I just kind of stole a little bit of the language that I was going to use on this slide here. So we're developing the strategy. I said at the beginning of the event here, every election season is different. The last election season that we really participated in was 2021, and we basically borrowed the strategy from the Speaker of the House, who became the Speaker of the House. So the Republican caucus in the House of Delegates. But this time we need to work with him and with the Republican Party of Virginia to find and identify candidates that will support the things we need them to be vocal and supportive of. And not just the Republicans. We need to continue to work with, or at least try to find, candidates who are both parties and independents as necessary, who will vocally support the VMI is not racist or systemically discriminatory in any way. VMI is good, sort of concept, and not be and not be afraid to say it when it counts, when the vote is necessary. So we're doing that by a number of different means. We're connecting with individual politicians that we've already known, that we've supported, candidates who have contacted us, candidates who are in staunch support of the principles that VMI was founded on and it continues to operate on, by reaching out to friends and neighbors who are and alumni who will talk to us about their constituency and the representatives that represent their districts. So it's very much a multi-path conversation to find the critical candidates that we need. Now, we're not going to have enough money to support every Republican or every Democrat that fits the bill out there. We just won't have the money to be able to do that. But like last election, in the election of 2021, we had to make strategic decisions. And we did that through the help of talking with leadership of the parties and leadership of the caucus to find out where are the races that are really on the edge, and a little bit of money here or there or a little bit more would get them over the edge. So we strategically picked, I think it was 10 to 12 races, or actually more than that, but strategically picked those and injected the energy, and the energy wasn't all money, but the attention, the exposure, and the money to help them with their candidacy. And We plan to do the same thing here, but across both then bodies of the General Assembly, both the Senate and the House. So it is a project in motion right now. It's being developed, and we're paying attention. So that's one of the reasons why I said earlier at the very beginning we sort of pivoted away from the social issues right now and trying to spend more time and attention, requisite time and attention on the political concerns. So we already talked about how important the election is, and we'll probably give one more plug on that at the very end. Remember that anything we have done can be undone. And so that's why something like the PAC has to be there to protect.
I will on the 22nd. We got one.
To protect the status of VMI.
Next week.
Please mute your microphones, please. So we're going to do what we can to get people out to vote, to motivate the electorate, and to and to raise attention. Next slide, please.
If I may ask iPhone of Robert to please mute. iPhone Robert, please mute.
Sorry.
Thank you.
How do I mute it?
Okay, so hey, Robert, just leave the room or something, okay? Or
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Trying to leave the room. Jesus.
All right. Okay, so with all that said, we've still got about 20 minutes for some questions. Any of the staff on here, have you been writing down any of the questions that people have posed?
Matt, it's been mainly a lot of comments. I don't know if I've seen questions, but a lot of great comments on just what they've seen of DEI still, kind of echoing what you were saying earlier about DEI still in place at VMI. And just pointing us to a couple of other groups, but I haven't seen any specific questions. So if anybody wants to open up and ask them now, have at it.
Hey, Matt, Carmen here.
Hey, Carmen.
Hey, listen, a couple of things. I don't know if anyone saw the MIT debate on DEI, but it was very informative. And one of the debaters was Heather McDonald. And in that debate, she said the following: a university's task is the pursuit of truth. The DEI bureaucracy, however, is founded on a lie, one that teaches students to think of themselves as victims and to see races where none exist. Quite honestly, I don't care what VMI calls it. I don't care if they call it inclusive excellence, diversity, opportunity, inclusion, or DEI. It is divisive, it is destructive, and it needs to be gone at VMI. And any watering down, as far as I'm concerned, is absolutely unacceptable to me. And there was also some mention about, which I couldn't agree with you more, Matt, with regard to VMI coming out and defending us against being structurally racist. In my view, that is long gone. They wasted 2.5 years and allowed that false narrative to be out there without defending it. Now the Alumni Association has the audacity to parade alumni and cadets out in front of us of all diverse backgrounds promoting VMI. Where were they when VMI needed to be defended? The Board of Visitors, the Superintendent, and the Alumni Association talk about how important the words on the parapet are. Where were they 2.5 years ago when we were being labeled racist? You know, there was another comment made with regards to the funding not being put forth by the state legislature. Well, in the Washington Post, Bill Wyatt, the communications office from the MIT, came out and said, okay, we're just going to find another place where to get the money. So, and also with diversity, opportunity, inclusion, if I remember correctly, I did the interview with John Reed this morning. Governor Youngkin put forth that in Executive Order number 10. A year later, we find VMI doing it. So as far as I'm concerned, VMI is trying to hoodwink the governor, and the governor, in my view, is letting down VMI by not taking an aggressive action, by addressing the real problem here, which is the Board of Visitors. They're the one that dictate policy. They're putting forward this policy, moving VMI forward. And it's funny how Democrats have no problem with, once they get in office, to adhere to the notion elections have consequences. Governor Youngkin, with all due respect, like I said this morning, he should be much more aggressive, and I wish the PAC would get behind this and say, Governor Youngkin, you need to put pressure on Board of Visitors. If you don't get on board with getting rid of these inherently divisive device concepts at VMI, then I want your resignation. We are running out of time. He's going to come down to VMI in May, and I'm very certain, and I would expect him to congratulate the first class and saying that they are now leaders ready to go out and be the leaders of this nation. That is going to undermine what our effort has been for the last 2+ years to try to tell people VMI is going in the wrong direction and they're going to endanger the VMI experience.
Hey, Carmen, let me just take you a pause there so that we give some other time for people to talk to. But thank you for that. I know exactly how you feel. I feel the same way in most regards. The PAC has taken a stance and will continue to take a stance. And I'll say it right now. I do wish that the governor would take a more aggressive stance on diversity, equity, and inclusion and rooting it out at VMI. We know it's divisive. We knew it was divisive from the beginning. And he had the opportunity to do it, and he didn't for one reason or another. And as we know, Carmen, you and I have talked about this a number of times, and this brings up a good point I wanted to bring up as well about his goal, I think, or his tactic was to place the right people in the Board of Visitors in order to make that happen. And I know that hadn't happened quick enough. We have another Board of Visitors installation coming in early July. I am very confident that we'll get four more good Board of Visitors members, but that still doesn't get us over the edge. There's 16 Board of Visitors members. You got 8 from the previous governor. You got 4 leaving. 8 from the previous governor, 4 from this governor that were just submitted or just put in place last year, and then you'll have 4 more. So it'll be 8 and 8. 8 and 8, which doesn't mean that they're going to win every vote that we need them to win, and the ones that are more moderate may not stand with the more traditional and conservative members. So we have put a slate in. We put a very strong slate in. We hope that 1 or 2. This year it was 2 in-state alum, 1 out-of-state alum, and 1 non-alum. And we submitted those names, multiple people for each position in early May, or I'm sorry, in early March. Sorry. So Carmen, I'm with you. We have a couple of things that we've got to do when it comes to being able to get people or help people to get elected. So so we're sort of walking a fine line of supporting what we know is right, and of course we're going to do that, but totally alienating people who might not support and be able to help us get delegates and senators elected. So I know that sounds mealy mouth, but going for the throat, and then if we don't get the throat, basically cutting our own throat for something that I think is going to happen. And I think we're going to get the momentum that we are seeking. It just hadn't happened yet. And you're right. They drugged their feet for a year or more than a year. And then, when the Board of Visitors actually voted to rename the DEI office to DOI, it took them 3 months to change the friggin' sign. And all the collateral is still up on the website. So yeah, it's frustrating, and we're trying to handle it. But I appreciate you, and I cheer you on with everything that you're doing, Carmen.
Matt, we've got a question here that's interesting. Scott Jewell, is there a way to have a grassroots campaign through the alumni chapters to get the word out about the PAC? Get on the agenda and raise the awareness at chapter level.
Yeah, but what we're finding, I think that's a great idea to pull in the chapter presidents or the chapter representatives and just talk with them and explain what it is that we're doing. Most of them should be aware. A lot of them were aware of our presence last April anyway. I mean, that was the April 6th or April 9th, whatever it was, day VMI Alumni Association at-large meeting was it wasn't a VMI PAC event, but we had some guys there, and we talked to a lot of them. But Scott is I think that's a good idea, and it's a good instinct, and it's something that we should. So Scott, if you can help us out doing that, yes, we need people to penetrate.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Matt. The PAC is a very organic effort. It's VMI alumni trying to do something for VMI, and those of y'all who have contributed, and are joining us tonight, we really need to leverage y'all as well. I mean, for that type of thing, because there's a lot of opposition. As some of y'all will know from your class agents, there's some class agents who don't buy into this. There's some alumni that don't buy into what we're trying to do. And there's a perception, and we need you to help us. We need y'all, this group, to help us fight that perception, to understand what we're trying to do here, and that organic effort at that grassroots level with your local chapters. That's where it starts, and if whatever y'all can do to help us there would go a long way as well.
We've got Keith Ranker with his hand up.
Yeah, I was just thinking, there's a lot, if you look on social media, there's also a lot of parents that are suddenly becoming conservative because they're getting very concerned about what's been taught to their kids and what their kids are getting exposed to. And this is just a thought. Maybe touch base with them. Maybe there's ways we can work with them. Pooling efforts in certain cases.
Yes, sir, Keith.
Just a thought. I think you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do, and we have worked with parent groups in the past. The whole design of the resistance, capital R, resistance, has been one of organic groups that work sort of in tribe or clan warfare fashion, that they're all going and believing that the end state is the same, but are taking separate tactics. And there are people who, there are efforts who would argue that we needed to band together officially and more. But I think we have seen it, a good example, they've seen it where it has worked okay, or like we wanted it to, is when the PAC was attacked by the Washington Post and basically shot us in the head, and the other efforts kept moving forward, and they keep moving forward. And there's several, and some of these efforts are one-man efforts. And Carmen Villani is a force to be reckoned with. He's a one-man effort, and it's not because we didn't try to recruit him. Hell, we tried to recruit him big time, but Carmen is a man that is bound to lead his own charge. But we have certainly allied with him, and the Bob Morris his set of efforts, and a couple of other alumni groups, smaller alumni groups and parent groups and individual parents. We have done that, so we'll keep doing that, Keith, and everyone else. And I think that's. It's a great suggestion, and it's a good reminder for us to keep doing this. I do have a bit of news that I had forgotten to mention earlier, and I'm not sure how I feel about this, saying this, but I got news at the end of last week that earlier in the week there was messaging across the VMI faculty and staff that our favorite Washington Post, I don't know what you call him, fiction writer, had articulated to the VMI communications director that he was no longer interested in the fact, in the issues at VMI. It could have been a number of different things, that happened to him. It could have been that he wasn't getting his traction. He wanted to drop back and punt, or it could have been that somebody got to him. I would hope that somebody from the Board of Visitors or the administration said, "Hey, knock it off." But history tells me that probably didn't happen that way. It may have been that there wasn't any more beer in that stone he's been squeezing. I don't know. It could have been that the Zippy cartoons got under his skin. It could have been that there wasn't a Pulitzer in it anymore for him. I don't know. But so we know this, and you all should know this, that he has actually said he's not interested in pursuing VMI issues anymore. So if he turns around and does, that means something remarkable has happened, i.e. somebody gave him a phone call.
Hey, Matt, it's Mark Carroll. So one of the questions that is on the chat from Keith and another from Scott is there any progress on VMI alumni voting using other methods in addition to being in person? There's several questions there.
The guy who probably knows more, you're talking about the VMI Alumni Association voting?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so the guy who knows about that probably best is Jake Spivey, who I believe is on right now. Jake?
He's sipping his beer.
Yeah. Do you show him on?
He's probably trying to find that unmute button.
His dad's beating him across the head. So I don't know the answer.
Well, I think George chimed in on the chat as well, saying that really no change, but I think it's important. I think we've already mentioned, kind of an aside, there's an alumni association meeting coming up that first weekend in May. And I know a lot of folks on this email or on this call tonight may have seen information there's a concerted effort to get people there because it hasn't changed. You've got to be in person. So we'll be echoing that. You'll see the PAC echoing that as well. But it's what is that? May the 6th.
It's May the 6th, and so we need to release something, and we talked about it already. We haven't done it yet. We're trying to time this so it's the most impactful and it's still on people's minds. And so maybe next week is the time to do it. It's probably a good time to do it. That we send out a press release and we talk about the meeting, and that there could be, it's not been confirmed yet, there could be an event the night before to sort of commingle, people meet each other, and then talk about the issues that they are going to be voting on, and then show up the next morning on Saturday morning. I think it's 8:00 start on Saturday morning, the 6th. I believe we're at 7:58 right now. Do we have one more question that we can squeeze in?
Matt, it's Mark Carroll again, everyone. I just want to put in a plug. We've talked about how critical things are at the election. The whole PAC's purpose is to support the General Assembly, the elected officers of the state of Virginia. We need your financial support. Like, we can't be effective at supporting candidates without your financial support. So appreciate the money, the support we've had to this point. But I can't impress enough that without the funds, our ability to participate in that process is limited.
Yeah, and I'll say, I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
Oops.
Is that you, Bots?
Hey.
Yeah.
How you doing, buddy?
Good. So that's hugely important. I would also like as many people as possible to contact Carmen Villani and cheer him on and try to give him as many acolytes and partners that could voice what he is voicing in the ways that he is voicing it. help him get his word out. I mean, we try to do that as well. But there's a guy there. There is an unafraid soldier right there, and we appreciate Carmen and Bob, what you guys are all doing. And personally, I want to show appreciation to everybody on the PAC. What people here don't know is we meet at least once every 2 weeks, but probably more realistically, once every week, in discussions that last hours on the phone to try to set up activities and form our opinions, articulate them, and try to plan out actions that will get the effects that we need to get. So thank you.
Hey, Matt.
Yep.
I got a quick question. I understand Mark's plea for financial support for candidates. What's the best way that we can support Carmen?
I would say
What avenue?
I would say contact Carmen. And sorry, Tim, I thought you were Jake. You guys sound just alike. And now I see that your phone, so it's Tim Spivey, Jake's brother. I think contact Carmen and just see what. He didn't ask me to do this, so I'm kind of putting him on the spot.
Sure.
He's been a little bit of a lone ranger, but I know that he could. I know that he could use the moral support if nothing else.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
Matt, thank you. I greatly appreciate all that. And I'm in VMI ranks, but my email address is Susan Charlie, D as in David, V as in Victor, number 76 at iCloud.com. Those of you Christians prayer would be great. I'm going to send Matt the interview that I did with John Reed this morning, and then Matt, you can distribute it as you see fit.
Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, so I said we're going to be done at 7. It is 8. It is 8:01. Barring any emergencies, I think we're going to call it. And please contact us. So I'll go around the PAC room anyway. The guys I can see. Hugh.
Thank you, folks, for joining us. And I can't echo Mark enough. We need your support. Operators are standing by now.
Mark.
All good. I appreciate everybody being on the call. At the most, we had 59 people. So greatly appreciate the time and attention to our call.
Okay, and Mark and Hugh, if you guys can stay on afterwards for some post-processing, that would be helpful. Tim Cordell.
Sure, certainly. Thanks again to everybody for tuning in tonight. And I see a lot of questions in the chat. Please continue with your questions by email, text, any way that you can. Let us make sure that you understand our position and where we are on all of these situations. Excellent questions tonight, and very good attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, George.
Thank you guys again for attending. Just one quick administrative item. I'm sure everybody knows this, but we are a group of volunteers. We're doing this because we love VMI. We want to preserve, protect, and defend the VMI experience for future generations, and to continue to make it a premier leadership institution. So thank you again. And you see on the screen, spiritofvmi.org. You can go there, click here to donate. Your help is very much appreciated. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you, gentlemen. And if we have any ladies, thank you too. And if I can get the PAC guys to stay on, that would be great.